Hi guys. So today is going to be a political cartoon overview and analysis. You can do one of two things. You can go through the PowerPoint on your own, or you can watch this video that I'm recording. Just make sure that you have checked in with me on Zoom for attendance, and make sure you are emailing me these answers, these 10 questions at the end. Make sure you're emailing me your answers by the end of the class period. Okay. Also, if you hear my dog bark, it's because it's garbage day. That's her favorite day of the week. So she might be barking, so I'm sorry. I'll try and pause the recording so you don't, get a jump scare or anything. Okay. So how to decode a political cartoon. We looked at political cartoons, especially during our immigration unit, but now we're just going to do a little bit more of a deep dive. So first you should establish context, study the words, then analyze the images, and then analyze the rhetorical strategies that are being played out. Everything, like I'll say later, everything in a political cartoon has a meaning. So it's really important that you're really observant when we're looking at these and when we get to our questions. So how to establish context. So context, a little bit of context for your context. The definition of context is any information that follows an image or an argument in this case. So you'll notice like the publication date on the cartoon. When was it published? The headlines are important words, like if there's a speech bubble or if there's a caption. It's to place the cartoon in a correct historical context in order to understand the message. So what is the message of the cartoon? Can you find that in the, like I said, the publication date or a caption or a speech bubble? That will establish context. So for example, this one, if we look down here, let's see if I can annotate. So if we look down here, if you see me circling, okay, it was made in 2010, okay? And so it's modern-ish times. I know it doesn't seem like modern times to you, but it's modern-ish. And then this guy is saying, psst, how do you turn this thing on? Okay, referring to this book here. So that is saying that kids don't know how to use books or read books, or they don't read books in school, right? Which is semi-true for us, right? Because we don't use textbooks. We use an iPad. So this is kind of saying that this generation, eye roll, right? Okay, I don't like it when people say this, but this generation does not read anymore, is too far into technology. So I got that from the words that were in the speech bubble, and knowing that was a publication date of 2010 when technology was just starting to get more advanced ish, right? Okay, so all the words in the cartoon are important. The title, the headlines, the signs, everything. Do not ignore the obvious. Do not ignore the obvious words or the message that it's trying to send you, especially if it's literally spelled out. Here's another one. We have this guy on a pedestal, or not a pedestal, like a lectern, giving a speech. And he has like a PowerPoint up here, and it says, preserve rainforest, sustainability, green jobs, livable cities, renewables, clean air, clean water, healthy children, et cetera, et cetera. And then we got this guy in the audience saying, what if it's all a big hoax and we created a better world for nothing? And we see in the background, climate summit. So from those words, you can probably guess that they are at obviously a climate summit talking about climate change or things we can do to help better the earth as seen by this list. And then this guy is semi against it, right? Because he says, what if it's all a big hoax and we create a better world for nothing? Well, creating a better world wouldn't necessarily be for nothing, right? So this was a very obvious political cartoon. We could see from the words, it was kind of spelled out for us, the message that it's trying to say. Okay, this one. This guy says, wow, and he's reading a newspaper that says, pump prices plummet. So like gas is going down. Piper, that really spoke to her, I guess. Let me let her out. Go get that garbage can. Yep. On her quest to go vanquish the garbage man. Okay. So the gas prices are going down, and the dad's like, wow, he's got all his kids there. And it says, now if we only had someplace to go. Okay, so gas prices going down means you could travel more, right? But because of this, like this billboard says, stay home, COVID-19, we're not really traveling as much as we would, right? So it's that's kind of the message there. So the next one, analyze the images. Everything is about the sketch itself. The reason it's a political cartoon is for the cartoon, right? The image, the drawing. So that is a big part of the message. So for example, the only words on this whole thing is welcome back, students. Okay, we've established that this is a teacher in a classroom. And looking at her face, she definitely looks concerned, right? Because this kid's giving her an apple, another apple, another apple. She's not concerned about the apples. She's concerned about this last part, which is like a COVID-19 strain that kid's holding. So we can see from her face that she's really concerned that kids are back at school. And oh, my dog's trying to get in. Come on in. Okay, she's all done. So the teacher's really concerned that COVID is still rampant and they're going back to school. So we saw that from her face, right? We have another one. The only words, once again, on this one is back to school sale. Okay. This low-key looks like Among Us characters, but it's not that. Okay. It's actually like hazmat suits that they use in like really dangerous conditions to go in and not get infected. So that's what that is. It's not Among Us. I knew you guys would maybe think that, but it's not. But it's saying kind of this kid's going into a back to school sale. There's hazmat suits with different characters on them, kind of implying that it's dangerous to go back to school, especially when COVID was really, really bad. It's getting bad again. Okay. So kids are gonna, this cartoon saying kids are gonna have to wear hazmat suits because it's so bad. Analyze the rhetorical strategies, exaggeration, illusion, analogy, symbolism, caricature, and stereotype. We'll talk about each one of these individually. Piper really likes this slide. I'll show her at the end so she can get some screen time. She's staring at me. Creepy. All right. Exaggeration. This exaggerates one or more features of a person or thing in order to say something about the person or thing. We've all seen this, I think. If you ever go to the carnival or a fair, or Navy Pier did it when I was younger. They always have like a caricature artist, and they if you sit down and get your portrait painted or drawn by the caricature artist, they're going to exaggerate your features so you kind of look like a cartoon. So this is similar. So for this example, we have Donald Trump, and he's looking at the different ratings, and it doesn't seem like they're very good, right? And he's saying they're huge. That's how he says huge. My Donald Trump impression is not good. Okay. And then we have that not being true, right? Huge across the board for every statistic, even his hands, right? Donald Trump does not have super tiny hands, but and this caricature artist has decided that he's going to have tiny hands, and he's going to lie about how huge they are. And then we have the military budget, which is represented by this huge, big soldier okay? And he says that's tiny, right? That's little. So you notice that it's not just like playing at somebody's weight or stuff like that, because it has to have meaning behind it. Can't just be like, this person is big because they're big, right? Like this one, the military spending budget is huge, okay? So that is why it's portrayed by a bigger guy, a bigger soldier. It has meaning behind it. So make sure when you're answering those questions later, you kind of tune in on to that. And we'll be making our own political cartoon on Tuesday when you guys come back. So, okay. Allusion. These are references to commonly held information. For example, events, characters, people, stuff like that. These are meant to help the audience equate or relate to or more ideas or people. So we have this like same kind of teacher setup again. Like, for example, when you think of teachers, right? Or you like, if you go to any store and they have stuff for teachers, it's usually going to have what kind of fruit on it? An apple. That is a commonly held information, right? And then, so that is why she says, I actually prefer apples. There's no information saying about like how teachers get apples all the time. But once again, the kids are bringing in COVID and she says she prefers apples. So that is an example of like commonly held information that everybody would know, mostly everybody. So you don't necessarily have to spell that one out. Analogy. This is another common one that you've probably come across. This is a comparison between two things, most likely for the purpose of explaining something or clarifying something. So this these two parents are watching the news and it says guns cause all the trouble, and it looks like a school or just some gun violence on the news there. Guns are causing all of the trouble, and then we have this kid playing a video game, says kill them all. It's a violent video game. So kind of comparing, right, the gun violence on the TV, them saying that guns cause all the trouble, but then this political cartoon is saying it's not guns that cause all the trouble, it's actually the violent video games. Okay, so that is the example of an analogy in that cartoon, kind of comparing the TV on this end, which is showing gun violence, versus the TV on this end, which is showing the violent video games. Symbolism. This represents something else. It's often a material object that represents something more abstract. So for example, I believe this is Obama. I can't really see the top of his head, but they used to like really show, really exaggerate his big ears, which he had like slightly larger ears, but not huge. Same with Donald Trump in his hands. He doesn't have like tiny little hands. Okay. Exaggeration. But for symbolism, we have Obama delivering a meal, and under the little, I don't know, I don't even know what this is called, like the little dome, I guess you could call it, that they cover the food with. It said promises, but then when he lifted it up, reality wasn't very good. Okay, it's just a bone. So that's symbolizing, the promises dome is symbolizing what Obama in this case would have promised the country, right, that he would get done in office, whereas the reality is much smaller and more disappointing. And then we have Uncle Sam. He's serving it to Uncle Sam, which would represent America. So there is some symbolism, lots of symbolism in this one. Stereotype. This is promoting a real or imagined trait of an individual to be true of the group of which the individual belongs. They often express bias and can be unfair assumptions. So for example, this is an Irishman from one of our immigration units. I didn't use this one, but we're going to look at it now. The Irishman is portrayed as a drunk, kind of sitting on rum. And it says, who's the boss? And he's just kind of portrayed as this dumb, not very smart, almost like monkey-like features here if we're looking at his face here. a drunk monkey who's not very smart. As we saw with many immigrant cartoons, they are often portrayed as this because a lot of Americans didn't want these people coming in, taking their jobs. Okay, they were treated pretty unfairly. So this is an example of that. So this one, what is this political cartoon trying to say? So let's try and analyze it together. We have the national suffrage, okay, as this woman's dress, and she's struggling to button it up. This one is ratification. Ratification is like they were trying to get this amendment passed, the 19th Amendment, so that women could vote. And what that tool is it would like hook the other side of the dress so she could easily button in case somebody wasn't there to help her. So that's what that is. So she's struggling to get her dress buttoned up and using that little hook thing to get the last buttons. And then the caption says, the last few buttons are always the hardest. So as it came down to kind of trying to get those final decisions made so that the 19th Amendment could be ratified, women are struggling in the suffrage movement to do so. So that is what this cartoon is depicting, the struggle of getting that 19th Amendment passed. And we see some symbolism here. We see that the dress is representing national suffrage, how hard the buttons are to button, and then the ratification tool is helping them button it up. So, okay, this one, help Uncle Sam stomp out the Kaiser. Okay, we have buy U.S. government bonds. Okay, so we see the third Liberty loan, excuse me, is stamping out the Kaiser here, the enemy. And if you buy these Liberty loans, that will help us defeat our enemy. That is kind of what that political cartoon is trying to say. Oh, and we see like the pant leg here even is red and white stripes, which represent our flag. Okay, so this boot is America stamping out the Kaiser here. So the progressive era, remember we talked about child labor. Okay, before the progressive era was big child labor, terrible laws against kids working, terrible conditions. So we see this big business guy eating these children, right? You could say he's eating their childhood, eating their, I don't know, eating them, right? Kids dying or getting hurt in the factories. So this is representing things prior to progressive era where big businesses were controlling and kids were working in terrible conditions. So now it's your turn. So the rest of this is going to be you going through each of the 10 slides here and writing down or typing your answers and making sure you're sharing them with me by the end of the class period. Okay, so these next ones, you're going to go to that political cartoon slideshow on the Google Classroom, and you're going to go through these and analyze them yourself. Okay, so that is it. And I will see you later. If you have any questions, make sure you go to the Zoom.